Security. Get this kid out before he disrupts the sterile environment. Dr. Langley's sharp voice echoed through the corridors of Chicago Memorial Hospital, his finger pointing at the 10-year-old boy who had just stepped through the entrance. Elijah Carter paused in the grand marble lobby, his worn sneakers stark against the gleaming floor. He had walked 12 blocks through the biting November rain to reach the hospital, but it wasn't the cold that made his hands tremble. It was the weight of a promise he made to himself. "Sir, please," Elijah said, his voice steady, catching everyone's attention. "I'm here to help the girl in the wheelchair. I know how to make her walk." Dr. Langley, head of pediatric neurology and heir to a medical legacy spanning 4 generations, glared at the boy as if he were a blemish on his pristine white coat. "Didn't you hear me? I've called security. Street kids don't lecture doctors here." At 45, Dr. Langley had built his career serving Chicago's elite, specializing in delivering reassuring words to wealthy parents, especially when hope was scarce, particularly for the daughter of Dr. Richard Bennett, the hospital's chief surgeon and top benefactor. "She's been in therapy for 3 years and hasn't taken a step," Elijah continued, undeterred by the approaching guards. "But I can help. My grandmother taught me how." At that moment, Dr. Bennett emerged in the hallway, pushing his 7-year-old daughter, Sophie, in her wheelchair. Born with cerebral palsy, Sophie's wide, curious eyes scanned the scene. When she saw Elijah, something extraordinary happened. She smiled and reached out her small arms toward him. "Sophie, no," Dr. Bennett murmured, pulling her chair back. "We're heading to your session." But Sophie pointed at Elijah and spoke her first clear word in 2 years. "Friend." The hallway fell silent, the word resonating like a thunderclap. Dr. Langley felt a surge of irritation at Sophie's reaction. In the 3 years he'd treated her, she'd never shown such interest in anyone. Elijah knelt beside her wheelchair, his eyes meeting hers. "Hey, princess," he said softly. "Want to learn how to dance?" "Enough," Dr. Langley snapped. "Security, escort this boy out now. And you," he pointed at Elijah. "If I see you here again, I'll call the police." Elijah rose slowly, but before being led away, he whispered something that chilled Dr. Langley. "Doctor, I know exactly why Sophie hasn't improved, and I know you're aware of it too." As security ushered him out, Elijah's gaze remained fixed on Dr. Langley. There was something in his eyes, an ancient wisdom, a steadfast resolve, and, most unsettling, the quiet confidence of someone holding secrets too powerful to reveal too soon. If this story of courage and determination resonates with you, subscribe to the channel to follow how a moment of rejection sparked a revolution that transformed lives at this hospital. 3 days later, Dr. Langley couldn't shake Elijah's words. "I know exactly why Sophie hasn't improved, and I know you're aware of it too." What did this kid mean? He tried to dismiss it as a troubled child's rant, but the certainty in those eyes haunted him. On Thursday morning, he arrived to find Elijah on the front steps, as if waiting. The boy made no attempt to enter, simply watching the flow of patients and staff through the glass doors with a composure beyond his years. "Haven't you called the police yet?" Dr. Langley snapped at the security guard. "He's not causing trouble, doctor," the guard replied. "He just sits there. The sidewalk's public property." Dr. Langley's frustration flared. This boy was deliberately provoking him, and it was working. During Sophie's therapy session that morning, something unusual happened. Sophie, usually withdrawn, kept glancing toward the window. Following her gaze, Dr. Langley saw Elijah outside, watching. Sophie fidgeted in her chair, trying to communicate through gestures, the first urgency she'd shown in months. "What's with her today?" Dr. Bennett asked, noticing his daughter's change. "Just a phase," Dr. Langley replied curtly, closing the curtains. "We might adjust her medication." But Sophie grew more agitated, tears of frustration welling up, tears Dr. Langley hadn't seen in years. It was as if she were desperately trying to convey something no one could understand. That afternoon, Dr. Langley spotted Elijah talking to Marjorie, a veteran nurse, in the parking lot. The sight infuriated him. "Marjorie, you were told not to engage with this child." "I'm sorry, Dr. Langley," Marjorie said, but he was sharing techniques his grandmother used with special needs children. "It's quite intriguing." "Intriguing," Dr. Langley nearly shouted. "He's an uneducated street kid." Elijah turned to Dr. Langley, his voice calm. "Doctor, my grandmother was Evelyn Carter. She worked here for 30 years in pediatric neurology. Maybe you've heard of her. Dr. Langley froze. He knew Evelyn Carter well, a legendary nurse renowned for remarkable results with hopeless cases. She'd retired 15 years ago and recently passed away. That's impossible, Dr. Langley stammered. She raised me after my parents died. Elijah continued, his tone steady. She taught me everything about how children's brains work and how to reach them when others give up, especially cases like Sophie's. Marjorie glanced between them, sensing the tension. Dr. Langley, if he's really Evelyn's grandson, enough. Dr. Langley roared. I don't care who he claims to be. Children don't treat patients here. Elijah stepped closer, and for the first time, Dr. Langley saw a fierce resolve in his eyes that made him recoil. Dr. Langley, I know you're lying to Dr. Bennett about Sophie's condition. I know you re-hiding the truth because you misdiagnosed her 3 years ago and won't admit it. The world stopped for Dr. Langley. How could this boy know about the misdiagnosis he'd hidden for years? You don't know anything, Dr. Langley whispered, his voice shaking. I know Sophie doesn't have severe cerebral palsy, as you told her father. Elijah pressed. She has a treatable condition you misdiagnosed, and you're covering it up to save your reputation. Cold sweat trickled down Dr. Langley's back. That misdiagnosis had haunted him for years. Young and overconfident, eager to impress Dr. Bennett, he'd made a mistake. By the time he realized it, correcting it risked admitting fault and a malpractice lawsuit. How do you? Dr. Langley began, but Elijah cut him off. I know how to help her. My grandmother taught me how to treat cases like hers. But you'd rather let a child suffer than admit you were wrong. Marjorie watched, stunned, as Dr. Langley unraveled. Get out, or I'll call the police, Dr. Langley threatened, his voice lacking authority. Elijah smiled, a smile too heavy with wisdom for a 10-year-old. You can call them, doctor, but I'll be here every day, reminding you that a girl in there could be running and playing if you had the courage to do what's right. As Elijah walked away, Dr. Langley stood frozen, his carefully constructed world cracking. This boy knew too much, secrets that could end his career. What Dr. Langley didn't realize was that Elijah's presence wasn't random, and his knowledge of Sophie's case was just the start of a truth about to surface, threatening to upend the hospital. Determined to end this, Dr. Langley called an emergency meeting with the pediatric neurology team the next morning. Colleagues, we face a delicate issue, he announced, adjusting his glasses with forced authority. An unaccompanied minor is disrupting our operations and interfering with patient care. We must act. Dr. Sarah Lynn, a neurologist recently transferred from Boston, raised an eyebrow. What kind of interference? This boy claims medical knowledge from a supposed grandmother who worked here, Dr. Langley said. It's a childish fantasy, but it's causing disruptions. Marjorie, the nurse who'd spoken with Elijah, shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Langley, I checked the records. Evelyn Carter was a nurse here for 30 years, and she had a grandson who was recently orphaned. The room fell silent, the air heavy. Dr. Langley felt sweat on his forehead. That doesn't change the fact that a child can't. Excuse me, Dr. Lynn interrupted. What specific knowledge has this boy shown? Dr. Langley hesitated. Admitting Elijah's insight would expose him. Unscientific nonsense, baseless claims. I'd like to speak with him, Dr. Lynn said firmly. If he's Evelyn Carter's grandson, that's significant. She was a legend here. That afternoon, Elijah was on the steps when Dr. Lynn approached. Unlike Dr. Langley, she sat beside him, treating him as an equal. You must be Elijah. I'm Dr. Lynn. I've heard about your grandmother. Elijah studied her cautiously. Did you work with her? Not directly, but her reputation was unmatched. She saved children others had given up on. Elijah nodded. She taught me that doctors sometimes get so caught up in textbooks they forget to see the child in front of them. Dr. Lynn smiled. Your grandmother was wise. Tell me about Sophie Bennett. Elijah met her gaze. Are you really interested, or testing me to see if I know anything? His bluntness startled her. I'm genuinely interested. Sophie doesn't have severe cerebral palsy, as her chart claims, Elijah said. She has a neuromotor disconnection syndrome, treatable with targeted stimulation. My grandmother taught me to recognize the signs. Dr. Lynn felt a chill. If Elijah was correct, Sophie had endured 3 years of improper treatment. How are you so certain? I saw the same symptoms in my cousin before my grandmother helped her, Elijah explained. And I've been watching Sophie through that window for weeks. She responds to stimuli a child with severe cerebral palsy wouldn't. Dr. Langley appeared at the entrance, his face contorting with rage. "Dr. Lin, what are you doing?" "Speaking with a remarkably insightful young man," she replied, standing. "Elijah, I'd like you to meet Dr. Bennett. He should hear your thoughts on Sophie." Dr. Langley's blood ran cold. If Elijah revealed the misdiagnosis to Bennett, his career was over. "This is outrageous," he shouted. "Dr. Lin, you're letting a street kid challenge our protocols." A child with exceptional medical knowledge inherited from one of this hospital's finest, Dr. Lin countered. Elijah stood, observing the tension. "Dr. Langley, you're scared of what I'll tell Dr. Bennett, aren't you?" "I'm not afraid of anything a child says," Dr. Langley snapped. "Then let me show him what I know about Sophie," Elijah said. "If I'm wrong, you can ban me for good." Dr. Lin glanced between them, sensing a deeper conflict. "Langley, what's the issue? If he's wrong, it'll validate our approach." Dr. Langley was trapped. Refusing would raise suspicion, agreeing risked exposure. "Fine," he said, voice unsteady. "But when this farce is exposed, I want consequences." Elijah's smile was unnervingly mature. "Perfect, Dr. Langley. I think you'll be surprised by what we uncover." As they headed inside, Dr. Lin whispered to Elijah, "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" "My grandmother said the truth finds a way out," Elijah replied, "especially when someone buries it too long." What Dr. Langley didn't know was that Elijah had spent 2 weeks doing more than watching Sophie through the window. He'd spoken with veteran nurses, reviewed progress reports discreetly, and noted every inconsistency in her treatment. In his worn backpack was a notebook containing evidence that would confirm his diagnosis and expose Dr. Langley's deception. As they approached Sophie's room, Elijah noticed Dr. Langley sweating, obsessively checking his watch and adjusting his glasses, a nervous tic his grandmother had taught him to spot in doctors facing exposure. The truth was closing in, and Dr. Langley was oblivious to the storm about to shatter his world of lies and false prestige. In the physical therapy room, Sophie lit up when she saw Elijah. He pulled his tattered notebook from his backpack. Dr. Langley had no idea those handwritten pages held 3 weeks of detailed observations that would dismantle a 15-year career built on deception. "Dr. Bennett," Elijah said, kneeling beside Sophie's wheelchair, "may I show you something about your daughter?" Dr. Bennett, a man devoted to finding a cure for his daughter, nodded. "Be quick." Elijah began gentle exercises, touching specific points on Sophie's legs and feet. To everyone's astonishment, Sophie responded, wiggling her toes and attempting to bend her knees. "That's impossible," Dr. Langley muttered, sweat beading. "Sophie has severe cerebral palsy. Those are just spasms." Elijah turned, calm unshaken. "Dr. Langley, Sophie doesn't have severe cerebral palsy. She has neuromotor disconnection syndrome, a treatable condition." Dr. Lin observed Sophie's reactions with awe. "Elijah, how are you so certain?" Elijah opened his notebook and read, November 1st. Sophie responded to tactile stimuli on her lower limbs. Day 5. Showed conscious control of facial muscles when encouraged. Day 10. Attempted to vocalize specific words with proper stimulation. Dr. Bennett paled. "You've been watching my daughter without permission?" "From the public sidewalk, sir," Elijah said. "And I saw clear signs her diagnosis has been wrong for 3 years." Dr. Langley felt his world collapse. This is absurd. A child challenging a certified diagnosis. Elijah fixed his gaze on Dr. Langley. "Dr. Langley, shall I tell Dr. Bennett about the misinterpreted MRI scans from 2020? Or the neurological tests you buried because they contradicted your diagnosis?" The room fell silent. Dr. Bennett turned to Dr. Langley. "What's he talking about?" Dr. Langley trembled. "Richard, don't listen to this kid. He's fabricating it all. My grandmother kept copies of key tests," Elijah said relentlessly. "She was working on Sophie's file when the results came in. She showed me how to spot the signs you ignored." He flipped a page and read, "MRI report, March 15th, 2020. Fundamentally normal brain structures. Signs consistent with mild to moderate neuromotor disconnection syndrome. Prognosis favorable with proper stimulation." Dr. Bennett snatched the notebook, eyes racing over the detailed, dated notes. "Langley, is this true?" Dr. Langley was cornered. "Richard, there was uncertainty in the diagnosis at the time." "Uncertainty?" Dr. Bennett roared. "You told me my daughter would never walk, that I should accept her permanent dependence." "I was being cautious," Dr. Langley stammered. "Cautious? Dr. Lin took the notebook, studying it. Elijah, these observations are remarkably precise. You've documented neurological responses indicating preserved motor function. Elijah knelt beside Sophie again. Princess, want to try standing? With his guidance, Sophie supported her weight on her legs for a few seconds. A conscious, controlled movement, not steady steps yet, but a clear sign of potential. Dr. Bennett's eyes filled with tears. 3 years, Langley. 3 years of my daughter's life you stole. Richard, let me explain. Explain? Dr. Bennett's voice was thick with fury. You lied to me. You lied to Sophie. You robbed her of years of progress for your pride, your fear of admitting a mistake. Elijah closed his notebook calmly. Dr. Bennett, with the right treatment, Sophie can live a normal life. She may have some limitations, but she can walk, run, and play like other kids. Dr. Lin, visibly moved, said, Elijah, will you help me create a proper treatment plan for Sophie? It would be an honor, Doctor. Dr. Langley made a final plea. You can't take a street kid seriously. Where are his credentials? His training? Elijah turned to him. Dr. Langley, my grandmother said true knowledge comes from love for patients, not diplomas. Something you seem to have forgotten. Dr. Bennett lifted Sophie, watching her respond to Elijah's touch. Langley, you're fired. And the medical board will hear every detail of this. Dr. Langley stumbled out, his career shattered, not by a rival or investigation, but by a 10-year-old boy who cared more for a child than he ever had for his own prestige. As Elijah worked patiently with Sophie, teaching Dr. Lin his grandmother's techniques, a new era began at the hospital, one where medicine was driven by heart, not titles. What no one yet knew was that Elijah held one final secret about his grandmother, a revelation that would transform not only Sophie's life, but the future for countless children seeking hope at the hospital. 6 months later, Chicago Memorial Hospital was unrecognizable. Elijah Carter, now adopted by the Bennett family, had become the youngest consultant in the hospital's history, working alongside Dr. Lin in the newly established Evelyn Carter Center for Neurorehabilitation. Sophie, now 8, raced through the corridors, her steady footsteps replacing the quiet hum of wheelchair wheels. She didn't just walk, she danced, jumped, and played like any child. She'd become an ambassador for a program that had helped dozens of children with similar misdiagnosis. Elijah, Sophie called, running to her adoptive brother as he reviewed medical files in the center named for his grandmother. Dr. Lin says we're helping 3 more kids today. Elijah smiled at the girl who'd sparked a medical revolution. Princess, ready to show them miracles happen with true love? Dr. Bennett watched from the hallway, the guilt of lost years replaced by gratitude and purpose. He'd secured funding and national recognition for Elijah's program. Dr. Langley's fall was as dramatic as his arrogance. Fired for negligence, he lost his license after an investigation uncovered other questionable cases. He now sold medical equipment, a bitter twist for someone who once thought himself untouchable. Elijah, Dr. Lin said, approaching with a folder, 5 more cases arrived. Children other doctors said would never walk. Their families traveled from across the country after hearing about our work. Elijah took the folder, his eyes gleaming with resolve. We'll help them all, Doctor. Dr. Lin shared a discovery from Evelyn Carter's files. Elijah, your grandmother left a journal detailing techniques she developed over 30 years, methods never published because she knew the medical establishment wouldn't accept them. Elijah paused. She said true knowledge passes from heart to heart, not book to book. This journal, Dr. Lin continued, documents over 200 cases of children she quietly helped, cases doctors had abandoned. She healed them with love, patience, and techniques learned by observing the children themselves. Dr. Bennett joined them. Elijah, your grandmother didn't just save Sophie. Her legacy will save thousands. Sophie ran up, hugging Elijah. Thank you for teaching me to walk, brother. Elijah hugged her back, whispering, thank you for showing me that the greatest miracles come disguised as children the world gave up on too soon. 3 years later, the Evelyn Carter Center is a national leader in pediatric neurorehabilitation. Elijah, now 13, studies medicine in a gifted program, but continues working with the center's children. Dr. Langley struggles to rebuild his career, learning that reputations ruined by arrogance and bias are harder to mend than medical errors. He lost not just his job, but the trust of a community that realized it had underestimated the power of truth wielded by a determined child. Sophie, now 11, aims to become a pediatrician, determined to help children once deemed hopeless, just as she was. Elijah learned that the greatest response to prejudice isn't anger, but the quiet success that transforms lives, proving greatness transcends race, class, or age. The plaque at the Evelyn Carter Center's entrance, chosen by Elijah, reads, "Here, we believe every miracle begins when someone refuses to give up on a child." Dr. Lin tells anyone who listen. Elijah showed us that true medicine comes not from diplomas on the wall, but from a heart that refuses to see any child as a lost cause. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who thought they knew your limits? Have you turned rejection into fuel to prove your worth? Share your story of overcoming adversity in the comments. If this tale of courage and determination moved you, subscribe for more stories proving that true strength knows no age, race, or background, and that the greatest teachers often come in the smallest forms.